everyone, how's it going? So if you live in Malaysia, this site is super familiar, Ken, the toll booth. It's just part of our lives, you know? Whether you're stuck in the daily jam or on that long drive back to your kampong, you just tap your card, the gate goes up, and off you go. But have you ever been cruising down a highway, maybe the North-South Expressway, and you just look around at how massive it all is and think to yourself, wait a minute, who actually paid for all of this? How on earth did we manage to build hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of modern roads so fast? Well, if your first thought was, oh, it's the government using our tax money, that's only a tiny piece of the puzzle. The real story is way more interesting. It involves a whole secret world of high-stakes deals between the government and really big private companies. So let's pull back the curtain and see how these giant projects actually get built. Okay, so to get how our highways even exist, you first need to understand the big problem we had back in the day. Malaysia really needed modern highways for the economy to grow, right? But building them costs billions, and I mean billions of ringgit. The government just didn't have that kind of cash lying around. And that's where something called a concession agreement comes in. You can think of it as the secret handshake that made all of this possible. So what is this concession agreement? Well, the basic idea is actually pretty simple. It's just a long-term contract. The government basically goes to a private company and says, look, we need a highway from point A to point B. You come up with the money, you build it, and in return, we will give you a license, a concession, to operate it and collect tolls for, let's say, 30 years. That way, you can get your money back and hopefully make a profit. This whole process has a name. It's called the Build, Operate, Transfer Model, or BOT for short. And this is the secret recipe. Step 1, the private company builds the highway, spending their own money. Step 2, they operate it. This is where we come in, paying tolls every time we use the road. And finally, step 3, after the deal is up, maybe 30 years later, they transfer the whole highway back to the government, usually for free. So we get our highways built fast and the company gets a long-term business. You know, if this breakdown is giving you a clearer picture of what's really going on every time you tap your Touch and Go card, do us a quick favor and hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps us keep making explainers like this, so you'll always stay one step ahead on Malaysia's biggest issues. So this BOT deal sounds pretty straightforward, right? But just imagine for a second that you're the boss of that company. You're about to spend billions of dollars on a project that will take years to finish and decades to pay you back. That is a huge gamble. What if something goes wrong? So probably the most important part of that whole agreement is figuring out who takes on which risk. And believe me, the risks are enormous. You've got political risk. What if a new government comes in and just changes the rules of the game? There's construction risk. What if everything ends up costing way, way more than you planned? Then there's finance risk. What if bank interest rates suddenly skyrocket? And of course, the biggest one of all, market risk. That one is simple. What if you build this beautiful, super expensive highway and not enough cars actually use it to pay the bills? So the contract has to be super careful about dividing up all these risks. As you can see in this table, here's how it usually works. The government will handle things that only a government can do, like acquiring all the land needed for the road. But the private company, they take on the big business risks, like if construction costs more than expected. And yeah, for the most part, the risk that not enough cars will show up. It's their job to get the bank loans and make the whole thing work financially. Okay, so since the private company is taking on all these massive, scary risks, the government often has to offer some incentives to make the deal, well, more attractive. Just think about it. If you're asking your friend to take a huge gamble for you, you'd probably offer to help them out a little bit, just to convince them, right? In the business world, these are called sweeteners.
And here are some of the most common sweeteners. The government might give something called a soft loan. It's kind of like getting a loan from your parents that you only have to pay back after you've paid off your big, scary bank loan. Or they might offer a traffic guarantee, where they promise to pay the company if traffic is too low. Sometimes they even guarantee the company's loans with the bank. But the most creative sweeteners, they involve things like development rights.
Now, just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, look at this number. $2.4 billion US dollars. That was the price tag for the North-South Expressway back in the late 80s and early 90s. I mean, at the time, this was a true mega project, one of the first of its kind in Asia, and a massive, massive gamble for any private company. And yeah, to make a project that huge even possible, the government had to bring out some major sweeteners. For the North-South Expressway, They gave the company a massive $634 million soft loan. And on top of that, they just handed over 310 kilometers of existing highway that was already built. That gave the company a huge head start on collecting revenue. And here is maybe one of the most creative sweeteners ever. To make the second link bridge to Singapore actually work financially, it wasn't just about the tolls from the bridge. This World Bank report from 1999 points out that the deal was sweetened by giving the company the rights to build and profit from an entire new township right next to the highway. This just goes to show, sometimes building a road isn't just about the road, it's about creating a whole new economic engine around it. All right, so after all this talk about concessions, risks, and sweeteners, what's the bottom line? What does all of this actually mean for us, the people who are driving on these roads every single day? Well, when you boil it down, there are really two main ways to build a country's big projects. Using this private partnership model, this BOT model, allowed Malaysia to build out its highway network incredibly fast. It tapped into private money and private company efficiency. But what's the trade-off? Well, we, the users, are the ones paying tolls for decades. And these deals can get so complex that sometimes, if a project starts to fail, the government might have to step in and bail it out anyway. The other way is for the government to just pay for everything itself. The roads would be free for us to use, sure, but development would be much, much slower. Plus, every single taxpayer in the country would be paying for a new road, even if they live hundreds of kilometers away and will never, ever use it. So there you have it, the secret world hiding in plain sight behind our toll booths. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, if you're someone who wants clarity instead of confusion on these big topics, come and join our community. Join thousands of Malaysians who want to understand things better. Tap that like button, hit subscribe, and let's keep making sense of this all together. And that brings us to one final big question. This whole pay-to-use model definitely helped build the modern Malaysia we live in today. But as we look to the future, to new train lines, new airports, new cities, is this still the best way forward, or is it maybe time for us to explore a new road ahead? Let us know what you think down in the comments. We'll see you in the next one.